Okay, continuing on from last week, we focused on real numbers and identifying their type using descriptor words. So this week, we're going to look at sometimes you may need to compare those real numbers. Looking at the first example there, 1 and -2, just by looking at these numbers, those comfortable numbers, you should be able to easily identify that 1 is larger than -2. But what if you're asked to compare different types of real numbers, like 1/2 and 20%? This type of comparison involves numbers that are in different forms. So right away, it's a little bit harder just to look at it and tell which is larger. When numbers are in different forms, we looked at last week, numbers can come in all types of forms, fractions, decimals, percents. When you have numbers in different forms, you are to convert all numbers to decimals. This is kind of the easiest method in order to make a comparison between the two. All right, so converting, guys, simply just means doing a quick operation in a calculator to change the number to a decimal. You don't need to convert whole numbers and decimals, those comfortable numbers, but if you see A and if you look there 1 through 5, it just kind of gave you a little guide there that you can reference when you're doing your conversions. So if you're given a fraction, you're going to divide. If you're looking at a percent, you might have a percent button on your calculator, or when in doubt, you can always divide that number by 100. Square root, there are square root key functions that you can use. Absolute value, if you remember from middle school, it's the positive version of the number. And exponent, you're also going to use the exponent function on a calculator. So let's take a look at converting some of these to decimals. And guys, if you do not have some of these buttons and you want to, you can always search in your taskbar just for the standard calculator. And it pretty much does have everything that you need for these conversions. So taking a look at the first one here, 1/3. 1/3 as a decimal, it's a fraction. So we're going to go ahead and just do the division. So we're going to say 1 divided by 3. And you get the decimal version, 0.333. It's repeating. It's a rational number. You've got a pattern there. So all you can simply do, now you don't have to write down all those values, but usually a good reference is 3 decimal spots after. So we're going to come in here, grab my pen. We are going to write in point. Bring up my calculator again so you can see it. 0.333. So 0.333. All right, 4%. So 4%, you might have a percent button, or you might divide by 100. So if you have a percent button, you just simply click it, and it'll give you the answer. If you do not, for dividing by 100 is the same kind of operation, and you get 0.04. It's actually easier for me to type it. All right, square root of 26. So the square root of 26, if you're using the standard calculator on your computer, here's the button you're going to look for. If you're using it on your phone, it may or may not have this little tube, but you're looking for this root sign. So taking a look at that, you want to hit it first so that your root sign appears up top, then type in your, hit the number first, then square root. So the number first, then square root, and this is equivalent to 5.099. Okay, absolute value. So those vertical lines are the absolute value sign. When you look up here, hopefully you remember this from previous math lessons, but you're taking the positive version of the number. So whatever you see inside, so for this problem, we have a -3 inside. This would simply be converted to a decimal, or a whole number that you can make sense of would be just a 3. And then last but not least, if you have exponent of 2, 5 squared, you would bring up your calculator, 5, hit the square button, and your answer is 25. So just a quick review on how you convert those numbers. You can always come back to this. You can take a picture of it. Again, that might help you when you're completing your practice activity. All right, so the last thing that we're going to take a look at here in this video is your comparison signs. So not only sometimes do we need to compare or convert those numbers into decimals to make sense of them, then comes the comparison. So here's just a quick review of your comparison signs. We have the greater than sign, the less than sign, and the equal sign. I still think to myself, and it's quite okay to do that, the symbol eats the larger value. The symbol eats the larger value. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. And those conversion methods still apply down here. So again, if you took a picture of it, great, you can use it. follow along in the video, and hopefully this will make sense to you. All right, so 2/7, this first one right here, 2/7, it's a fraction, so I'm going to divide it, and I get 0.285, 0.285. So I'm just going to come down here and type it in. I'm going to change my color so we can see it. 0.285 is my conversion. 1 is simply a nice number that we like to work with, so we don't have to convert it. You can rewrite it. You can also just refer to it above. So looking at those two values, you should realize that the whole number 1 is much larger than a decimal value. It is actually 0.285. So it is a portion smaller than 1. So putting in your symbol, we are looking at my sign eating the larger value, which we have determined to be 1. All right, moving over to the next one, -3 and absolute value of -3 and the value of -4. So absolute value, we would be looking at the positive version, which is 3. -4 is an integer. It's a number that we do not have to convert. So looking at these two values, 3 and -4, hopefully you realize that a positive value always is larger than a negative value. So I would be looking at the greater than sign. Square root of 15 and 4. So 4, it's again one of those whole numbers we can just kind of ignore and use it to compare. Square root of 15, symbol, or number, symbol, square root of 15. You can see your calculations up here just so you can always double check. 3.872. Right, so this is just, again, my conversion so I can make sense. So when I look at 3.872 and 4, hopefully you can see that 4 this time is my larger number. So again, my symbol is eating the larger value. Two quick problems left for examples, 3/8 and 4/7. So again, if you're looking at fractions, hard to tell. So convert them to decimals. 3/8 is 0.375. Look at that, guys. Shortcut. You can learn little methods to help yourself out. You can copy and paste from the calculator on your computer. 4/7. So again, division is needed to convert fractions. And again, I'm only looking at, you only need the first couple. You can even take a look and remember the last one was 0.3 and this one's 0.5. So there's definitely a difference in that first point value. So you could also cut it down if needed. So looking at these two, when we're comparing decimals, we go place value by place value. So 0, 0, they're even. 0.3, 0.5. 0.5 is larger. So again, I'm going to put my comparison symbol in there, eating 4/7 because it is larger. Okay, last but not least here, -2 and 30.6. -2, normal value, it's an integer, so I can just leave it for comparison. -30, 36, or 30 divided by 6. So remember, if you have negatives, here's your negative. It should be a plus minus. It is different than your subtraction sign, so be careful. So we have a negative, so let me clear this out. -30 on top, and be careful with the order of how you enter it in. Depends on the calculator, so just make sure you're looking in your entry screen. You're dividing it by 6, and we get -5. So this value is -5 when we're looking at converting it. Didn't make a decimal, but it could be -5.0, but -5, it comes out to a whole number. So now comparing -2 and -5, this can trick people, but -2 is larger than 5. Take a look at a number line just to kind of make some sense of it and see the concept behind it. So here's -2. So if I went ahead and drew a dot on -2, and I drew a dot on -5, hopefully now you can visually see that -2, although it's just number portion, seems smaller. It actually is closer to my positive numbers. It's closer to 0. It is farther to the right, which are how number lines are organized. The larger the number, the farther to the right it is. So sometimes it's not a bad idea to take a minute, draw on a number line just to double check yourself that the negatives didn't trick you. So for your assignment, you're going to be looking at converting numbers into decimals and then also using these comparison signs. Message me if you need any help.